This is a bucket. But what most will not expect is that this bucket holds the key to a dark conspiracy. Lies, deception, an administrative cover-up, and a mystery for the ages. This case has baffled experts, a community in shock. A case that defies explanation. My name is Hosty McHostington of New England disturbing and psychologically scarring true crime stories, and this is the Stanton Pee Bucket Conspiracy. Monday, September 9th, 2024. Residents of the second floor of Stanton Hall receive an email informing them that as of the writing of the email, the janitorial mop bucket has been urinated in 3 times. Immediately, the question ignites a flame of curiosity on the floor, with residents writing such messages as, "Seriously, who the fuck pees in a bucket?" and "What freaky-ass person pees in a bucket 3 times?" Immediately, conspiracy ran wild as to who may be behind the terrible act, with the floor turning against each other, and suspicious of who may have been behind it. Residents were frustrated at the lack of communication about the matter, with the authorities not disclosing any information on what happened. For 3 days, theories run wild, and then tragedy strikes again. The news broke and the situation was now included to all residents of Stanton, and now the residential life authorities had gotten involved, making the case an official issue. Authorities never disclosed how many more urination attacks had occurred between the 2 messages, but an amateur number guesser puts the number at maybe 2 or 3. In their message, they encouraged the community to come forward with any information that could help them apprehend a suspect. The introduction of Res Life and the encouragement to come forward with information signaled the end of the situation as no further attacks were made. As with the previous email, the lack of information made people curious as to what happened in those 3 days, with no official statistics on how many attacks, if any. There were so many unanswered questions. First and foremost, what happened? The first theory we'll discuss is the lone pisser or rogue pisser theory. This was picked up by small segments of the Stanton community and proposes that the attacks were carried out by a single perpetrator. Where the community disagrees is on motive, with some claiming the perpetrator acted out of malice, while others claim, quote, "I think they were zoinked out of their mind and mistook a bucket for a toilet 3 times. Regardless of motive, according to the theory, the perpetrator acted between the hours of 1 to 3 a.m. when there was no activity in the hallway, opened the janitor closet, urinated in the bucket, and then locked it back up. It is unknown if they descended from the north or south stairwell, and the differences in motive play a role here. According to the malice theory, the perpetrator could have entered from either the north or south, but in the zoink theory, the perpetrator would have had to enter from the north end in order to reach the janitor closet before they reached the bathroom. The frequency of attacks also calls the zoink theory into question, since the 3-day span of intoxication is statistically unlikely, but not impossible. Critics also point out that it is incredibly unlikely for the same accident to occur 3 times, but the repetition implies foul play. Further adding to the malice theory is that the urination, and specifically the mop bucket, could suggest the intent for the urine to spread, a theory that then splintered off into the vengeance theory, which will be discussed later. Believers of the lone pisser theory believe that the introduction of Res Life was the endpoint because the perpetrator was either caught or became too scared to continue the attacks. This theory is emboldened by an eyewitness account on the night of Saturday, September 7th, when footsteps were heard moving from the north end of the hallway and the sound of the janitorial door opening. The witness got the attention of the roommate and planned to confront the perpetrator, but they were slow to move and missed the perpetrator. The flaws in the theory are confusion over why the perpetrator would want to contaminate Stanton Second, since the motive does not get any more specific than evil for evil's sake. It has been suggested that perhaps the perpetrator had a grudge against a resident of Stanton Second, and thus peed in the bucket in order to get back at them. I am honestly unsure how or why this would get back at them, but the theory stands. So let's break the theory down. It proposes that one perpetrator for an unknown reason targeted Stanton Second but backed down from their campaign of terror after Res Life was involved. As previously mentioned, a splinter theory from the lone pisser theory, believers of this theory propose that the lone perpetrator aimed to contaminate the entirety of Stanton Second. Theorists say the perpetrator peed in the bucket in hopes that the urine would go unnoticed, contaminating the mop, and so when the floors were mopped the next morning, the urine would spread to the entire floor and cause a mold outbreak, shutting down Stanton Second and possibly the whole building. Motivation for this more than likely lies with a disgruntled resident or perhaps a former RA of Stanton Second, someone who is familiar with the patterns of Stanton's cleanings as well as the location of the janitorial facilities. This theory, however, remains fringe due to the severity of the allegations and that no likely culprit has been discovered. This theory suggests that the September urinations were the product of a prank war between student-athletes living in Stan. This theory's supporters suggest that residents from multiple floors took turns urinating in the janitorial bucket in order to mess with each other. This theory could also explain the motive for the case, either a simple act of delinquency or perhaps trying to get a victim on Stanton Second blamed for the attacks. This would also explain the immediate end to the attacks with the introduction of res life to the scenario, as the athletes would have the most to lose. Supporter of the theory Graham Ensa has developed a possible explanation in a social media post. Quote, "The attacks happened over 2 weekends by 3 different perpetrators, all of which targeted the same bucket and waited for the urine to be discovered. Beginning the weekend when upperclassmen move in, student-athletes returning from a party go to the janitor closet, urinate in it, take a picture for Snapchat, and then slip away back to their room. The urination is discovered the following morning and reported to the RA. On that Friday night, a different student opens the closet to find the bucket empty, passing along word of the act's discovery. This encourages the students to act only when there would be immediate discovery the next day, alleging that attacks would only occur on a Thursday or Sunday, as they are the only weekend days when cleaning staff come in the following morning and discover the attack. This explanation answers a few of the major questions that came up during the initial confusion. The belief that the attacks only occurred on the night prior to discovery is reinforced by the fact that the urine was able to be easily washed out and not ruin the cleaning equipment. The time frame is also aided by the fact that Stanton had only been occupied by students on August 26th, and thus there were only 2 weeks for the attacks to occur. This theory has gained many believers in Stanton and is widely believed to be the true account of what happened. The Wheaton cover-up theory is an even more fringe theory than the bioterror theory that has been shared, albeit entirely anonymously. Shortly after the initial notice, a burner account shared a story that reads as follows, quote, "It is absolutely ridiculous that Residential Life is telling everyone to be scared about an apparent serial urinator just as soon as the residents of Stanton began complaining about the removal of showers. Just you wait and see, they'll use the attacks as justification to keep facilities away from students." The account has never been traced to any Wheaton student. However, it seems that their words reached Residential Life, who sent out an email just 2 days after, reinforcing the narrative that there was someone peeing in the bucket, which, according to the burner account, was meant to distract students. The burner account elaborated further in another post, writing, quote, "Now Residential Life is doubling down and asking people to come forward with information about an attack that they made up. A lot of people were curious what I was alluding to in the previous post, and to be absolutely clear, it is the school trying to distract the residents of Stanton from the fact that they removed all showers attached to the triple in Stanton. Just you watch, they're gonna use this bullshit, unsanitary behavior to prove that residents can't be trusted with a fucking shower." After posting this longer rant, the burner account posted a photo of a plastic bottle containing what appears to be urine in a dark concrete room, captioned, quote, "These morons even left the piss they used to fill up the buckets out in one of their maintenance buildings." Interestingly, the image, when attempted to be reverse image searched, came up with 0 results, suggesting that the photo is authentic. And the prediction of the account was all but confirmed when Stanton residents who requested to remain anonymous sent in a message they received from the school's work order system after they had requested a shower to be installed, with the maintenance team writing, "There are currently no plans for there to be showers in Stanton. You can attempt to contact the coordinator for housing, although this will certainly be denied given the recent unsanitary behavior in Stanton." The alleged administrative cover-up was the catalyst for student protests across Stanton for the removal of private showers. Protests were organized by student Chad Smith, who rallied Stanton residents to more effectively resist. Smith would conduct a private investigation of the Stanton shower conditions and compile his finding into a document called the Shower Truther Pamphlet, a document that was initially shared on social media. However, viewers did not have the permission to view the document through a Google permission oversight. Smith would instead choose to print out hundreds of copies of the pamphlet and hand them out to many students in order to spread the message. The pamphlet would contain information such as evidence of the removal of shower piping, the filling in of drainage systems, as well as signs showing possible attempts to remove the tub altogether. Smith uses this evidence to claim that the school attempted to secretly remove all evidence of private baths and showers in order to cut costs, and perhaps to cover up something more sinister. After the spread of this pamphlet, school administrators would search for the creator of the pamphlet, finding Chad Smith to be behind it after they checked his printing records and saw that he printed 500 copies of Stanton Pamphlet ChadSmith.pdf, and that the pamphlet was in fact a Google Doc in his school account. Smith would be forced to take a leave of absence for the rest of the semester for fear that he would, quote, incite another rebellion. The movement of student activists would not fall apart in the absence of Chad Smith, however, rebranding themselves into the Stanton Shower Truthers and organizing a hall-wide protest, consisting of flushing objects down the toilet, as well as pipes at the sinks, forcing maintenance to take another look at the piping in the building. Another protest took the form of consistently running communal showers in order to intentionally create outrage over the situation and generate shower-based complaints to administrators. This new wave of protest would create turmoil in Stanton Hall, considered by administration to be bordering on open revolt. Campus Safety Officer Ryder Jenkins was dispatched to deal with the situation, and for the month of October, Stanton Hall was placed under martial law. Jenkins believed the best solution to active revolt was not to give the protesters the answers they want, but to begin dishing out disciplinary action. Beginning with an email cautioning against what was called prolonged shower times and stressing that misuse of any of Stanton's facilities would result in grave consequences for anyone caught. Jenkins would also quietly remove all flyers and posters spread by students about the Stanton situation and attempt to keep the increased policing of the building as quiet as he could, citing alleged robberies of dorm rooms as requiring increased campus safety presence. It was under this strict surveillance that tragedy would strike again. October 30th, 2024. Campus safety officers are switching off between patrols, and in the brief window, the first urination attack in more than a month occurs and shocks Stanton to its core. It seemed to residents of Stanton that the attacker had returned amidst the turmoil in the hall, and this time right under the nose of direct surveillance. The attack was a clear act of disobedience, and seemed to inspire much more panic in school officials, who now offered a staggering 10 Lions Bucks reward for anyone with information. Janitorial closets were now fastened with locks to prevent anyone from entering, and routine checks were made in hallways for suspicious activity. It was only by these drastic measures that further attacks were prevented for the rest of the semester. Janitorial practices would continue as normal, and the Stanton issue would quietly fade into irrelevance, with protests being impossible under such close scrutiny. No perpetrator had been named, and the only tangible response had been to the protests, leading some to hold on to the cover-up belief. As of December 2024, Wheaton administration maintains that a perpetrator was never caught, but a repeat offense is unlikely given the drastic measures taken. They refuse to comment on the relationship between the serial urination and the shutdown of dormitory showers, despite repeated requests by students. Due to a lack of evidence, no theory has ever been concluded to be the definitive answer, leaving the case of the Stanton Pee Bucket conspiracy unsolved.